Hi, my name is Mike Dillard, and this is Self-Made Man, the podcast for men who want to leave their mark on the world and create a legacy of honor, integrity, and achievement in every aspect of their lives. I'm glad you're here, and once again, it is time to forge your destiny. You know, at one time or another, every single successful entrepreneur that I know, whether they have a $1 million per year business or a $100 million per year business, has gone through Dan Sullivan's Strategic Coach program. And basically, when you're ready to stop working yourself to death as a solo entrepreneur who's doing everything, and when you're ready to 10x your business by building a team that can grow that business without you, Strategic Coach is where you go. I am a former student myself. So today, we are joined by the man himself to learn the ins and outs of building a self-managing company. We're going to dive into everything from figuring out your unique ability to how to hire the right people and even what to pay them. So if you're ready to take your business to the next level, this is definitely an episode you do not want to miss. Now, as for some in-house news, Self-Made Man is now on Instagram, so make sure you check us out and give us a follow. The account is @SelfMadeManOfficial, and we've got a bunch of amazing adventures coming up over here over the next few months, including a trip to Monaco next month for F1, and I'll also be headed down to Africa for a safari with Richard Branson at the end of the year. And all of the pics and stories are going to be shared with you on that account, which is Instagram.com/selfmademanofficial. So thank you so much for that. And with that being said, please help me welcome the strategic coach, Mr. Dan Sullivan. Welcome back to Self-Made Man. And today I am delighted to introduce you to someone who has played a huge role in my career as an entrepreneur, definitely a mentor of mine, Mr. Dan Sullivan. Dan, it is so great to finally have you here on Self-Made Man. Thanks for joining us.
Thanks a lot, Mike. Great pleasure for me. This is a treat.
Absolutely. So for those who are not familiar with you or your work, you are the founder of, or the co-founder of Strategic Coach. And at least in my circles over the last decade as an entrepreneur, pretty much every successful 7, 8, 9-figure business colleague of mine that I know has all gone through Strategic Coach at one point or another, or is still there learning with you. So if you could introduce yourself, tell us a little bit about your story, and let's dive into what Strategic Coach is.
Yeah. So, Mike, first of all, live in Toronto and have done so for 46 years. It's 46 years. And I came up because I had a job offer with BBDO, big ad agency, and this is right out of college. And I came up, I knew someone, I knew a friend who knew a friend and got a job. And I put in 3 years, but I've always had a great love of coaching people. So one of my skills, and as I think it's probably factory installed, I was born with it, but I've always had the ability to listen to someone talk for about a half hour and pretty well get a fix on where they ought to spend all their time. I call it unique ability, and it's a real keystone concept in Strategic Coach. And that is that, the educational system growing up, we learn how to do a lot of things, but it's not really where our passion is. It's not really where we do our best work. And so I created this way of getting people just to focus in on the thing they did best, and then create a structure and a team around them. So more and more of their time was just freed up to do 3 things, where all their energy is and passion, where they're really unique in terms of their capabilities, but also there's a big multiplier in terms of how much they would get paid for this. So they had to do this with the right clients and customers and pick the right markets. So I did this for 15 years, from 74 to 89. And then in 89, we started a workshop program where what I used to do one-on-one, we now did in workshop, and it's grown. And so we're, in addition to myself, there are 15 other coaches, and, somewhere in the neighborhood of about 3,000 active clients, 8 cities. We're in 3 countries. And, we've gone for just me bringing in a paycheck to, where this year we're pushing 35 million. as a company. So we're not a small company anymore. We have about 120 team members, and I'm just about entrepreneurism, Mike. My dad was an entrepreneur. I could never. The job I had as a copywriter is really the only job I ever had in my life, and that was 3 years. And other than that, I've been, creating my own business. It's self-made, and it fits in with the theme of your show.
Yeah, absolutely. So, if you could sum up what the purpose of Strategic Coach is, I guess in my words, if I had to summarize it, it would be essentially a coaching environment where entrepreneurs like myself learn how to implement systems and processes that allow them to successfully scale. Would that be accurate, or would you have a different?
Yeah, well, we use 3 words, and we say expanding entrepreneurial freedom, and everything bounces off that concept. So we have hundreds of thinking processes that we've created for people, but the central thing about it is that I think entrepreneurs are essentially motivated by personal freedom and the freedom of operation in business. So there's, 4 big freedoms that we go after. Freedom of time, that more and more you're really in control of your time, both working and not working. Freedom of money, that it's money that you love making and it keeps growing. Freedom of relationship, you after a while, you can just work with both inside your company and in the marketplace with people that you really enjoy working with. And then freedom of purpose, that the company that you've created really serves your bigger, your long-term purposes in life, in all areas of your life. And, and then, we do it on a quarterly basis. So the whole point is every quarter you have an experience of freedom in those 4 areas of time, money, relationship, and purpose. And, you'll choose the product or the service that you're selling in the marketplace. And those are all interesting discussions. But if your purpose in life is to constantly expand your freedom, and your purpose requires that you constantly expand your freedom, then we're really sort of custom designed for that person.
What does the typical entrepreneur look like when they show up to Strategic Coach for the first time? What does their life look like, their business look like? Is it chaotic? Is it stressful? I'd imagine there's got to be some common traits there that you've identified over the years, and that your curriculum is essentially designed to resolve.
Yeah, I mean, they're really, as you know, Mike, they're really smart. They're really creative, but they got way too much going on in their mind, and it's happening all the time. So they've kind of lost control of, they're more reacting than transforming. They've gotten to the point where all the scorecard numbers, they're getting good scorecard numbers, the amount of money they're making, their, the profitability of it, their impact, their credibility in the marketplace. All those things are really good, but they're not feeling the rewards. They're sort of kind of feeling that instead of them being in control of their game, the game is controlling them, and they're not getting a lot of joy out of it. And as they project into the future, they can't see a point of where it would ever change. And it's kind of a bad, what I would say, a bad outcome for having taken a path in life that not many people do. Only about 5% of the population is ever truly, and completely entrepreneurial. And you did it, so that you could design your own, lifetime of greater freedom, but you're not experiencing the freedom. So I would say that that's the, kind of the gap that they're experiencing in their life, is that they're doing, from an outside standpoint, they look to everybody else like they're really successful, but they're not experiencing it on the inside.
So what's the key to changing that? Where do you start with them?
Yeah, well, since I saw you last, we came up with a very simple diagnostic tool, and we call it the ABC model. And if you think of a big circle that has another circle smaller inside of it, and then there's a third circle, we call the biggest circle A, the middle circle B, and the little circle C. And we say that everything that's in A are stuff that really irritates you. You know, it's all the activity. If you think of the next month or quarter coming up, these are activities that just irritate you. The middle circle B are activities that are okay. They're not irritating, but they don't really excite you. And then the smaller circle inside is C, which is fascinating and motivating. And anytime you're in this area of activity, you actually produce more energy than you use when you're doing it. And then we get you to do a time audit. If 100% of your time is accounted by A, B, and C, what percentage is A, what's B, and C? And then what are three activities that are most irritating? What are the three activities that are okay that probably someone else can do? And then what are you doing in C that could be expanded? And so every quarter, we operate on a quarterly basis. And in my workshops, we have a 25-year framework. So if somebody's coming in right now, we're looking at 2042 for a planning purpose, and it gives you 100 quarters. And every quarter is just 1% of 25 years. And every quarter, you can shift time out of irritating forever. You don't do it anymore. You can shift time out of okay. It gets delegated or it gets automated. And more that C component, grows. And then that's the game plan. And then there's the doing of the game plan, which requires a lot of teamwork. It requires some tough choices. You have to just cut, stop doing. Sometimes it's irritating people, and you have to separate from the irritating people. But every quarter you get an opportunity, and out of that, as that C circle keeps expanding in terms of your amount of time and activity, your freedom expands. You get this sudden feeling of, first of all, freedom of time, and then the money automatically almost is a byproduct of freedom of time, freedom of relationship, and freedom of purpose. And, there's lots of bells and whistles to what I'm saying, but that's the game plan that anyone listening to me could just draw it out on a sheet of paper, and they could actually do the exercise even after we're finished here, and they could see that there's all sorts of things that they would immediately begin shifting.
You mentioned briefly when we first started the term unique ability. Could you define that for folks?
Mm-hmm. Well, unique ability, I think it's you're born with it, and it's just a particular area of activity. For example, Mike, I think both you and I are kind of similar here, is that any kind of communication activity is a great activity for me. I'm a front stage guy. I'm not a backstage guy. Okay, so my unique ability are coaching. My unique ability are creating new concepts, new thinking processes for my workshops. I do a lot of podcasts. I do a lot of videos. I do public presentations, but they're all for marketing purposes. And that's it. That's it. Nothing else involved in running the company would I consider my unique ability. And fortunately, I've got a partner who has worked with me, and we're married, and we've been working together for 33 years, and she's freed me up from everything except those essentially front stage activities of coaching, creativity, and marketing, and that's all I do. So 95% of my time every year would fall into those activities. I'm very passionate about those activities, and generally speaking, people see me as a hero in their lives, that just by going through the processes that I've created, their life gets simple, their life gets focused, the energy comes flowing back into their life, and there's a big multiplier. I just had a workshop last week where in 4 days over the next 12 months, the company will make as much money as we did during the first 3 years of our existence, just out of 4 days, and it's about, I can't even get the multiplier, but it's a big check. And that just comes from me being freed up just to focus in that way. And so this is what we teach everyone else in the program, just to find the sweet spot and build your entire life out of that sweet spot.
Yeah, very cool. And if we could continue on it, just to kind of give people a 50,000-foot view of your process. Once they've gotten their activities mapped out within those 3 circles, they've got their time allocation mapped out, and they say, okay, this is a good look at my life and how I run my business and where I'm spending my time. What is the next step?
Well, the other thing is that within we have a goal that whatever your basic results were over the last 12 months when they come in, and one is we just look at revenues, we look at profits, and we establish a goal of 10 times. So, that I have a belief, and I also have a strategy that it's much easier to grow if your goal is 10 times than if your goal is 2 times. Okay, and the reason is that if it's 2 times, you'll try to pull as much of what you're already doing into the future. But if you go 10 times, you'll get rid of as much as you can from the past and really simplify down. So just the thinking of 10 times. And then it's, there's many different contributing factors, Mike, to this, who your team is, who your customers are, what's the basic value proposition that you have in the marketplace. Is the market you're actually operating in, is it encouraging of 10 times, or would it become increasingly difficult? The political jurisdiction that you're living in, does it support, does it not support that? And so a lot of conversations, but we have this 10 times thing. And then one end of the other ones is we just get people to establish how long they're going to live. So we have a concept called the lifetime extender. And I said, everybody's got a number in their head. You may not know what your number is, but your body does, and it's planning to hit the deadline when you're planning to depart. Give you an example. I might ask someone, at what age are you going to die? And they'll right off the bat, a number will pop out, and they'll say, well, 80. And I said, good. Let's say they're 53. And they say 80, and I say, okay, let's talk about 79. Let's not talk about 80, but let's talk about 79. And then I ask them a series of questions of how they want to be physically, how they want to be mentally, how they want to be financially, quality of their relationships, and their sense of satisfactions with their life. And they'll give me a whole series of answers which suggest that if they were that way at 79, they wouldn't die at 80. Okay, and I say, okay, well, you've just given me some great answers to my questions, but unless you got hit by a truck or died in a plane crash, you aren't going to die at 80 if you're that way that you described. And then I say, so if you were that way at 79, how much longer could you live? And they'll add another 10, 15 years, maybe 20 years. And I say, okay, so you've just given yourself a new number. And let's say instead of 80, it's 100. You're going to live to 100. And Mike, just going through this thinking takes about a half hour to do it. I see profound changes in how people are looking at their life. They came in, they had a number in their head, but until I asked them the question, they didn't really focus on the number. And then when I get them to really think about that number, invariably they'll extend it to 80. Mine's 156, by the way, which is 30 years running. So in 1987, one afternoon, I decided I wanted to live to 156. And it's really interesting because I'm 72 right now, and that 72 has no bearing on my thinking. I'm not looking at life the way most 70-year-olds are looking, because it's not even halfway to 156, and I'm in top-notch shape. I do gene mapping, I do everything that gives me a read on what's strong, what's weak, what needs work on, exercise tremendously. And I can, talk to my team about being a coach when I'm 95 and a better coach at 95 than I am right now, more energetic than I am right now, simply because I think I'm going to take advantage of every scientific and technological breakthrough, simply because I have a 156-year goal. And what we notice is a real shift in the way that people are looking at health. All my concepts are done very quickly because I have a lot of ADD people in the program. I am myself. I'm clinically diagnosed as ADD, and I have some suspicions about you, Mike. So you have to do things real fast. You can't have people thinking for 4 or 5 hours. They've got to think something through in a half hour, which I do. But, it's just thinking they wouldn't do on their own. They come in and they do all sorts of thinking. They're in a great group because everybody is talented and successful and ambitious like they are. So it's a great community. So that just gives you a flavor of some of the things that we think about.
Yeah, it's interesting. Assuming you make it to 90, which it sounds like you're definitely on the way to, there's a very realistic chance that 156 is practical at that point. Yeah, it's interesting. I mean, everything changes right now with what's happening from a technology standpoint and longevity. I'm 39, and my 6-year-old son, if not myself, definitely him, will very, very, very likely have the opportunity to live forever.
Yeah.
Which is interesting.
Yeah, I think the big thing there is not physical. I think it's psychological. I think the biggest things which would discourage people is that they wouldn't have any friends because they've been fairly rigid in how they've created their friendships. A lot of people just have peer age friendships, and and they run out of money or they don't have any real purpose. I have a feeling your body isn't going to go on working if psychologically you have no friends, no money, and no purpose. You're probably going to find some way to die.
Yeah, agreed.
Yeah,
agreed. Well, to swing things back onto kind of the business side, one of the things that you just mentioned is how critical your team is to you and to allow you to sit within your unique ability and to spend your time on that. So, from a team perspective, what advice can you share with us on how to build a fantastic team from the ground up?
Yeah, well, I have a bit of a contrarian view because my view is to make my people irreplaceable. And that really cuts against the thinking in a lot of business circles that people are expendable. We have 120 staff, and slightly over 70 of them have been with us for more than 10 years. And frankly, all the ones who are here over 10 years, I really want them to be there 20 years and 30 years. And the reason is that we've got them, each of them, just like I am as the founder, and I'm a big deal in the company. But I get to operate in my unique ability, and more our team members get to operate in their unique ability, which means that they're doing what they're passionate about. They're a hero, and there's real multiplier results. So our whole attitude when we hire someone is that we're really looking for an irreplaceable person. In other words, that they're going to take to us and we're going to take to them. And we're going to create a really great teamwork, and we will never have any reason to replace them, and they'll never have any reason to replace the place where they work. And it's a deal, and it's kind of unique. I pay attention to how employment and the job market is talked about and running teams, and I always get the sense that entrepreneurs kind of talk a little bit too much about firing people, and they say, if they don't do what I want, I just fire them and then I replace them. And my feeling is I've never seen anything great actually created with that attitude, that the greatest organizations I've ever had have people who have, really feel like it's a lifetime investment and dedication on their part. I mean, I'm just telling you what my approach here is, but more and more how I'm talking about it and how we're demonstrating it in Coach is having a real impact on our team. And that means the entrepreneur has to get really, really, really good at teamwork, and you can't be a rugged individualist. You got to really be a member of a team. And I've improved in that area probably more than any other single skill in the last 10 years. I've just become a really great team player. And I see myself only getting better at that as we go forward.
What do you think has been the key to mastering that skill for you as far as becoming a team player goes? Is it your ability to communicate with them? Is it a motivational component? Is it your ability to really, I guess, teach them and help them improve within their role, or a little bit of all of the above?
I think it's a combination of factors. One is, first of all, I don't do any of the hiring, so we have a team because I'm a salesperson, Mike, and so are you. And the last person you should ever have hiring is a salesperson, because they treat the hiring situation like it's a sales opportunity. And they hire the wrong people. So we have people who are much more poker faced and less enthusiastic. And, we have all sorts of tests. We have all sorts of filters that we put people through even before they can come in for a first interview. We tell them about the unique ability thing. We said, when you come in, we're going to take your unique ability real seriously. We're really going to commit ourselves to helping you get to where your unique ability is. And, a lot of people, they treat that like a huge burden, and they don't want that. They say, look, I'm just looking for a job. I want to come in at 9. Tell me what to do. I'll work till 5. I'm not here to improve myself as a person. I said, well, see, that's a really good answer, because this isn't the right place for you. So it's a lot of the messaging that we give out right up front when people are coming in. That attracts people or it does not attract them. I mean, it's a radio signal that you're sending out into the marketplace. And a lot of our hiring is affiliation hiring. Someone who already works at Coach has friends, and they talk about what life is like inside Strategic Coach, and somebody said, boy, if opening ever comes up, could you plug me into it, and we do that. But we use agencies to also, but we put out the word to the agents, look, this is an unusual organization. People who buy into us for the culture. And we want to tell you exactly what the culture is so that you can size up the person, whether they fit. But more and more, we have people coming because they know about the culture. They know about the emphasis on unique ability. So I would say over the last, maybe 3 or 4 years, the hires have been really, really good, really, really good. And they're getting better all the time. I'm not a great manager, but I am I'm very, very clear about what I want. And I'm very, very clear to other people when I'm working them that when we achieve what I'm looking for, it looks like this and this and this and this and this and this. And I give very, very clear instructions to people. And so I have great people working with me, but they're mostly self-managing. That's a concept that we really strive for in the company. It's a self-managing company.
That's great. I can appreciate that a lot. I'm the same way. I can really appreciate that a lot. I don't like to manage people, and I can go weeks at a time without talking to some of my oldest team members because they've been here for years and they don't need my input and they do a fantastic job as is, and that's awesome. I feel good about that.
Yeah.
So
and I think it's a real reward. It's very, very interesting if you put out the possibility that people are going to be in work that they love doing all the time, and they're going to be heroes, and their work is going to have a huge impact on the growth of the company. Money in itself is not the big issue for them, to spend your 35 to 40 work hours every week, doing something you love, working with people you love working with, doing work that you love doing. That's really valuable and has an impact. That's a huge reward in today's world.
So let me ask you, if getting down into some detail here, because this is something that I'm having to go through over the next couple of months personally in a really big way. When it comes to hiring, let's say I've got to hire 5 or 6 people in the next 3 months. How do you go about determining compensation? And a part of that obviously is having a mission and a company that they're aligned with and can believe in, and that's a form of compensation in and of itself. But if I've got to pick the number, to offer this individual, or if they come back with one, how do I actually figure out if that's too much, too little, just right?
Yeah. Well, nobody coming in is going to get overpaid in our company. I'm a great believer in Herb Kelleher, who started Southwest Airlines, that you hire for attitude, you train for skill, and you fire for example. Those were his 3 rules. And I'm a great believer in it, that I want their main motivation is that they aspire to be in a great place, doing great teamwork. If the money and the benefits is the stumbling block for them in relationship to us, it's a stumbling block for us in relationship to them. Okay, but there's going to be growth opportunity, and there's the faster that they demonstrate skill as it relates to our goals, and that they're going to grow. And we pay market price. I mean, we don't overpay people, but we don't underpay them. We're in downtown Toronto, downtown Chicago, downtown Los Angeles, downtown, in the UK. And we know what the going price is. And, we're in the neighborhood. But the attitudinal thing is the big thing. If you're here and money's always going to be the big issue, and it's going to be a constant demand on your part, this is not going to be a fruitful relationship. We're all making more money as we go along, but if that's your big deal, then that's you're not our big opportunity.
I think, speaking for myself here, one of my biggest challenges is I have a fairly abundant mindset when it comes to money, and so I will tend to pay much more than I need to, just to get what I want accomplished. Meaning that I'm happy to pay for it and pay premium for it to bring that item to fruition, if you will, or project or whatever it may be to completion. Yep. And on one hand, it gets done, which allows me to grow the business more. On the other hand, I know that I'm not doing it in a really responsible manner. And so I'm trying to figure out how to fix that.
Yeah, I mean, there's a quick way of checking this. Just write down the names of the 4 best hires that you have ever had and the 4 worst, and I'll give you a real feel of the difference emotionally between them. And then the 4 best that you had, just identify the mindsets that you had, up to a certain number of mindsets. But you take the 4 best ones, you look at those mindsets, and quite frankly, you can word the job using those 8 mindsets, and you'll send out a clear radio station, a clear radio signal, just because of the way that you worded using those mindsets. You're a communicator. You're good with words. You would be able to do that very easily, and it'll screen out. So, the number one skill that entrepreneurs have to have, regardless of your business, is the ability to screen out people that you should never meet and attract in the people you should always meet, whether you're talking about customers, clients, whether you're talking about team members or specialists from outside the company. But it's all a mindset. It's a mindset thing. All the people that you've loved the longest it's a mindset love. They just have the right mindset.
That's great. I like that a lot.
It wasn't skill. It wasn't skill, and it wasn't experience. It was mindset.
Absolutely. Another big part of y'all's model that's strategic is the use of the Colby Index.
Yes, indeed. Yeah.
For those who are not familiar with Colby, I've brought it up a couple of times here on the show, but we've never really gone into it in depth. Give us a few minutes on how you apply that to your business and why it's important.
Well, Kathy Colby is someone who lives in Scottsdale, and it goes back, I would say, easily probably about certainly 30, 35 years. She's had this profiling as a way of getting a profile for someone to match them up with two things: the type of work that's required, but also the human environment that they're coming into. So in our company, we have 120 people. There are 120 Colby profiles. And you can see in putting together teamwork that you have to have a lot of balance between different types of people. So her profile, basically, as many of these profiles do, consists of four major categories. One, people are fact finders, and these are people who have to get a lot of facts before they can make a decision to take an action. The next one is follow through, and these are people who have to create a system of completion before they can make a decision. And then there's people who are quick starts. I'm a quick start. You're a quick start, Mike. And we're people who do our research by making a decision and going into action, and then we start figuring out whether we made a good decision or not. Okay, and people who are entrepreneurial in the sense that they're creating new businesses and new opportunities oftentimes have this quick start profile. And then there's a fourth one which doesn't play a big part of businesses that are mainly conceptual. Mine is a 100% conceptual business. Yours is a conceptual business. But if you have businesses that involve physical, manual work, or the key skills are people who are very good with their hands, there's one called implementer. You're good at with implements, very good with implements. The key about this, the whole thing, to sum up the system, is that by taking this test, you can identify how someone naturally takes action to get their results. Okay. And you can align people really perfectly. I mean, it doesn't test for character. It doesn't test for ambition. It doesn't test for a lot of things, but it does test about whether this person will just naturally get energy out of doing this type of work, and it won't be stressful for them. And so, with salespeople, there's some Colbys which would just not make them a good salesperson because they would have difficulty picking up a phone and talking to a stranger. They would have a difficulty, selling. They'd have a difficulty closing just by the nature of their framework. And then take every other activity and job that you have or position that you have in your company, and you can match up. So we've been using it since 1991, and it doesn't guarantee success, but from our experience, not using it pretty well guarantees failure of that matchup. And it's very interesting because Kathy Colby's maiden name is Wunderlich, so the one of the main IQ tests that is utilized widely in the U.S. in business sports is the Wunderlich test, and that's her father created that, and that was created for the U.S. Army. It was originally created for the military to very, very quickly evaluate whether people had officer potential or not. But it's basically IQ. And as you know, and I know, Mike, we've met many, many people who have high IQs who just are misfits for what we're looking for.
Yeah, absolutely. No, it's a brilliant system. And if you guys haven't taken your test yet, go take the Colby A Index. I think it's about $90, $100.
No, it's about $50 online. I think it's about $50 online. Yeah.
Okay, great.
Yeah, and as you just go to KOLBE, 5 letters, KOLBE.com, and the moment you get in, they direct you. But I would tell you how much we believe in it. First of all, that we've never asked for a discount, but everybody who works for us automatically takes the Colby, and everybody who comes in as a strategic coach, a participant in the strategic coach program, we automatically provide them with the Colby profile for themselves, and then we encourage them to do it for their team, for their family. And Kathy told us that we're responsible for about 500,000 profiles over the years, and it's just a great, it's we're all hedgers. We're trying to hedge things in our favor. You're trying to stack the odds in your favor, and this is a great one. If I had only my choice of one profile to do on anyone I was dealing with, that's the one I would go for.
Cool. And what's your score for people's?
Yeah, I'm a 2-2-10-4. So I have a 2 fact finder, which means that the best kind of research for me is just to make it up.
No research, right? Yeah.
Yeah. And follow through, which means by the time I've shaved in the morning, I've pretty well exhausted my follow through. And but 10 quick start, I can make up new things all the time. Day in, day out, morning, noon, night. I can make up new stuff, and I can talk. I'm a great talker. And then implementer, I have a 4, which means, and my where it comes out, I'm a trained artist, so I can do really neat diagrams, and I have a lot of artists on staff, but I can give them really good direction because I don't have enough to make a living on it, but I have enough to communicate extremely well with it. So I use my drawing skills a lot. Yeah. What about you, Mike?
I am a 5-4-8-4.
5-4-8-4. Yeah. You're a much more useful person than I am.
How would you describe someone with my score?
Well, first of all, it's the classic entrepreneur. I mean, if you want to look at the most successful entrepreneurs in the world, they would have a profile of the combination of the first column and the third column, the fact finder and the quick start. You have enough fact finder that you do really, really good due diligence. You don't overdo it, but you do really good due diligence on any situation that you get in. And you have the 8 quick start, which means that you're decisive and that you're probably a really good communicator, and you probably lead through action. You're the first one you're the first one into the pool, and that has a real confidence building on your team. And you have the 4. So what do you do? What do you use your hands for? Because usually there's some use of your hands. Now it might be in your personal life that you do it.
Yeah, I'm really averse to any kind of tinkering of any kind, right? I don't like to set up electronics at this point. I used to when I was younger. I would build my own computers, back in the early PC days. Yeah. Today I think I'm just too lazy and over it. But have always been very active physically. So a lot of sports, racing cars, racing bikes, fishing.
Yeah. Racer. I mean, the really top, the top like motorcycle racers and that, you'll see like a 6 or 7 implementer in that 4th column. And speed doesn't mean the same thing to them than it does normal mortals like me. They don't experience speed. They could be doing 200 miles an hour on a motorcycle, but they wouldn't experience it like I would, which would be sheer terror. And, it might show up just in your personal life, but if you have it, you need an outlet for it. And I don't do that sort of stuff in my personal life, but I've found that just using it for the one thing of graphic communication really, really satisfies me.
Very cool. So to change gears a little bit, I would love your thoughts. We've got about 10 or 15 minutes left on what you see taking place in the future and how the world is changing and how entrepreneurs should accommodate for that and how they should be thinking.
Yeah, well, first of all, I believe that we're living in, it's been a remarkable last 200 years have been the most remarkable growth period in the history of the world. I mean, it was like a hockey stick. It was like a 30 or 40,000 year hockey stick, and then all of a sudden you get this abrupt change, late 1700s, early 1800s, and it's all entrepreneurial driven. And like a lot of people say, well, it's the industrial age. Yes, but it was entrepreneurs who created the industries. It's entrepreneurs who risk their money, risk themselves, enormous failure rate. Nobody ever talks about the failures, but there were enormous failures in the growth of industrialization. And then in only certain countries, the three main countries were Holland, the UK, and the United States. And then gradually the influence of those countries really introduced entrepreneurism and industrialization. And now we're into, where, we've shifted from industrialization over to it's basically digital networks. The whole economy is more and more being grown through the application of digital technology to all activities. And this is very profound. I think this is one of the four biggest shifts in human history. And it's not because of the industrialization. It's really because a new form of communication has been created. So previously, people at some point learned how to talk, then they learned how to write, and then we had print technology in the 15th century, and now we have digital technology. And this is the big one because it involves everybody. And, the population's gone from 1 billion to 7.3 billion, in just a little bit more than 200 years. So we've never had this mass of people. And, half of them have cell phones, and each of them has a different idea what they want to do with it. So it's creating a lot of complexity. One big thing is suffering from all this. Government and politics is not geared to dealing with this new world. And so there was a lot of thought that there was going to be global governance, and I never bought into it. I think finance goes global, technology goes global, science goes global, and trade goes global. Government doesn't go global. And so what we have now is a pulling back within borders. And I think you're going to see a period, I don't know how long it'll last, but certainly next 20, 25 years, where you're going to see a strengthening of sovereignty and a strengthening of borders. And the reason is that the more things accelerate in one direction, the more there's going to be a counter reaction. So the Brexit vote in England and the Trump election, and everybody's watching France right now and everything else. But you're going to see this, I think, for the next 20, 25 years of countries becoming more national. Borders are going to increase in importance, not decrease in importance. All the talk about, what they talk about at Davos in Switzerland, and, there's going to be a borderless world. My belief is going to be just the opposite. And so there's the usual plays on currency, the plays on trade that happen between border differentials, or I think are going to get bigger and bigger. I mean, we've always made an enormous amount of money by having most of our dollars earned in the United States, but having most of our expenses in Canada. Right now we've been living for a year with $1.35 American dollar, and that sort of differential, you're going to be enormous amounts of money made off of the differential across borders. So that's just my take on it, and I think we're reaching the end of what started as progressivism just before the First World War in the United States, namely that you would have experts at the top of government, and these experts would know better than the citizens how the citizens should live their lives. I think that's over too. I think progressivism is coming to a cliff and it's falling off. And I think there's going to be a lot of movement back towards the Andrew Jackson, Henry Clay in the United States. live in Canada, but I'm a red-blooded American, you know.
Yeah, no, absolutely. It's
American. Anyway, that's my take on it. Actually, if people would read about Jackson and they would read about Henry Clay, you would get a lot of insight into the current situation. Yeah, that's my.
Yeah, no, I find it absolutely fascinating. I've seen the same thing, and I have come to the same conclusion you have. And you know, the reasoning for me, looking from the outside, is that humans are tribal creatures.
Yeah,
and we're totally fine mixing and matching and different with different ethnicities and things like that. But things start to fall apart when value systems for local communities and countries start to deteriorate, and different communities within the same area that have completely different value sets start to clash, and that's
you know, and the States has always insisted on that. This has been a departure. I mean, the big difference between Canada and the U.S., as I see it, you know, is Canada has this sort of attitude of a patchwork quilt. We're going to allow people to come here and be who they were, where they were, and then gradually they'll become Canadians. But the closest I've been here for 46 years, and the closest definition that Canadians can give me for a Canadian is that they're not Americans, you know.
Right.
And America is kind of a religion, you know. I mean, you feel it intensely. I mean, I grew up with, you know, religion. I was Roman Catholic, and I grew up, and the States has all the qualities of, you know. So I have Eleonora. She's here with me in the studio, and she's just smiling. You know, but she comes from a mafia family, so she understands that tribalism thing. You know. So anyway, but and it's taken everybody who's really over credentialed. You know, people who go to university and get enormous credentials who think that makes them smart. This current turn in world affairs has really taken them by shocking great surprise, and I'm just thoroughly enjoying it.
It's it's a unbelievably fascinating time.
All the people that I dislike most are having a really bad year.
Right. It's a fascinating time. That's for sure. It's a good time to,
you know, and the high tech people in Silicon Valley have got to really readjust their notion of what's going to happen. You know, the one thing that destroys any relationship is contempt, and I just have seen too much contempt coming out of Silicon Valley and out of Hollywood and out of Wall Street and all the college campuses. The response to contempt is electoral votes.
Yeah, it's going to be fascinating next couple of years for sure. So
I mean, we could go for hours on this. I'm
absolutely,
sure.
Yeah. It's just interesting. We've both come to the same conclusion, which I think is very cool. But you know, Dan, I want to be respectful of your time here. We've got about 5 minutes left. Tell people who Strategic Coach is for and how to get in touch with you and apply if they would like to go through the process.
Yeah, it's, for talented, successful, ambitious entrepreneurs who would really enjoy jumping to a 10 times level from where they are right now. And at the same time, their life will get simple so that they'll get a greater payoff of freedom in their time, in their money, in their relationship and purpose, you know. We have a program for them. We have a program for them as a married couple with their, married couple. We have a program for their children, 18 to 24. And we have a program for all their team members and their key people. So we support them throughout all that. And we have a really great website. It's just strategiccoach.com, www.strategiccoach.com. And we have a North American 800 number, 1-800-387-3206. And if they go to the website, it's self-explanatory. And the 800 number, if they want to chat, you have to be making at least $100,000 to qualify for our signature level, have to be an entrepreneur. And for my level, the 10 times level, the crossing point is $500,000 in personal income, and you have to have a 10 times goal, and you have to be willing to think in terms of the next 25 years. But I start 2 workshops every year. I just opened one last week, and I have another one starting in October, and we're about half filled. We're about half filled for that one. Anyway, I love what I'm doing, Mike. It was, first of all, I consider it a great opportunity and a great gift that you would give me an hour of your time to introduce me to your friends. So, anytime, maybe we can go pure political next time. That'd
be fun. That'd be fun.
Yeah, I just love that because I've been a real student of American history going back 50 years. And my first active election was Goldwater in 1964.
Very cool. Awesome.
Yeah.
Well, Dan, I have to say the same. Thank you so much. It's been an honor and a pleasure to have you on the show. And thank you for your contribution to my life and all of our fellow entrepreneurs. It's been amazing. Looking forward to connecting again in person at some point here in the near future. And for all of you listening, absolutely go check out Strategic Coach. Once again, I've been through the program. All of my other entrepreneur friends, Evan Pagan, Joe Polish, name the name, they've all been through Strategic Coach. So, Dan, it was a pleasure. Thank you once again. And everybody who's listening, thank you for your participation. And we'll see you next week. Take care.